see them?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as written from September 9th and September 26th.
No, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? You need to adjust.
We need to adjust to add discussion on the Better Roads Category A grant, which is erosion inventory.
Yeah. Where do you want to put it?
We could put that right in number 4 or after number 3 if you want.
Yeah. Better roads.
That's like a 3A?
Yeah. Okay. Here, citizens. John?
I think most of you know that I'm your current representative in the House for District W2. I'd like to thank everybody. It's been a pleasure and a privilege serving for the district for the last 4 years. I'd also like to say that I was the town of Cavendish's electrician for many years. I've worked with 3 of your town managers, and I've always been impressed with the quality and the efficiency that the town of Cavendish operates in. I even managed to get along with Randy. Not many people are able to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for your service.
Any other citizens? If not, we'll move on. Town clerk to provide information on upcoming general election.
Okay. We all know the general election is on November 5th, 2024. And I just wanted to give some updates. We've had calls over the last 3 weeks. People have had a lot of questions, so I thought I'd just go through it and provide some information. So our polling place, as most of you know, is the Proctorsville Fire Station at 513 Main Street. The polls are open from 10 to 7. The Secretary of State's Election Division did a state-wide mailing. They mailed ballots to every registered voter. Some people, if you've not received a ballot, please give us a call at the town office, or come election day, it's not too late, we can resolve whatever the problem is. Sometimes there's a couple people who maybe the box didn't get checked for taking an oath, or a driver's license, or a social security number hasn't been verified. So we can take care of that and you'll be able to vote. If you received a ballot and you leave it at home when you come to vote, or you throw it in the trash, or it's not the ballot you want to use, you can come to the polls again. All you have to do is sign an affidavit of no ballot cast, and we'll give you a new ballot right then. So, the other thing that I wanted people to know about is at a Board of Civil Authority meeting recently, we voted to start processing ballots early, absentee ballots early, and that's going to take place on October 30th from 9 to noon, and then 1 till the counting is done. In 2020, we processed 462 early ballots, and we still had quite a bit of activity at the polls, so we were glad that we did that. It's a lot opening every envelope and checking everybody off. The last day to request a delivery from two justices of the peace is November 2nd. And then the last day to request an absentee ballot is on November 4th. And the town clerk's office is open till 5 o'clock. There is a new law that's been put into effect this year that no firearms are allowed in any polling place. I'd like to give people a heads up on that. I don't have a lot of people bringing firearms, but some people are quite used to wearing one, and they would have to leave it in their vehicle. I'm going to put signs up, but I want to remind everybody, I'll put signs up in the voting booths. There's the Justices of the Peace on the back of the ballot. So you need to turn the ballot over and vote those justices of the peace. And I will put signs up in there too, but I have a lot of people who come and as soon as they go to feed their ballot, they realize they didn't vote those and have to go back. Campaigning. You could be out on the sidewalk at the fire department on either side, provided you're not impeding any traffic. No buttons, literature, clothing in the polling place for anyone who's running either party. Write-in votes. Just a word on write-in votes. We've gotten a lot better about write-in votes over the years. We used to have a lot of write-in votes to count. Funny write-in votes, you know, the Mickey Mouse, the Donald Duck. If you think somebody really wants to serve, is willing to serve, and they'd be good at the job, we'd love to have people write them in. If you know someone who didn't get a petition in on time and wants to be written in, that's great, but I would really plead with people not to write people in as a joke, because when we're counting at 9 o'clock at night, we're not finding it very funny at that point. So I would appreciate that.
So like their dog or something that they put on there.
Right, or their
just
neighbor.
because,
People
yeah.
will write their neighbors
Yeah.
in. And
Yep,
Yeah.
I understand.
And then,
Yep.
you know, the other thing I just wanted to touch on is I've gotten a lot of emails and surveys and questionnaires about if I'm worried about violence at our elections, our polling place, and I've answered every one of them, not at all. You know, how concerned are you about this? I don't think the voters of Proctorsville and Cavendish are that way, that anything is going to be divisive. And I've answered every one of those, that we have no problem here in our town. So I have complete faith in our elections. Thank you.
Could I ask one question?
Yes, any questions?
I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you say it. If
Okay.
a ballot is received after November 5th that's mailed in, is it counted?
If I come back from the elections on November 5th and I find it gets received the 6th?
No, you get it on the 6th.
Yeah, it would not be counted.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No. And that was one more thing that I want to clarify, because I saw it on WCAX. They said, and they also posted in an article, that the deadline for getting your ballot in was 7 o'clock on election day, and you needed to have it at the town clerk's office by 7. We're not here. You need to have it to the polling place. That's it.
All right.
Any other questions?
I know that it was common that people sometimes didn't sign their ballots.
You don't have to
And
sign.
you have to sign something, right, in the ballot?
You have to sign the envelope that you put your ballot into.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody signing in person, voting in person does
Doesn't
not
have to do
worry
that.
about
All
that.
right.
We also
I thought
now
everybody
are
had.
required, and we're required within 3 days to open the outer envelope of an absentee ballot to ensure that it's signed, to ensure the ballot's in there, and to be sure the envelope they're supposed to sign, and we contact the person to give them an opportunity to cure the ballot and still have their vote count. So that's new within the last, I don't know, what do you think, 6 years, maybe
Yeah.
4 to 6 years? Yeah,
It's not a whole lot different than absentee balloting that's been forever.
right, yeah. Yeah, being able to cure the ballot
Yep.
is good, instead of finding out the day of the polls that your ballot wouldn't go through for some reason, so. All right, well, vote early,
Vote
or
often.
vote on election day. We'll be there all day, 10 to 7.
Thank you. Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Municipal energy resilience upgrade, grant update.
So this is a grant that has been in the works for a while, but we have submitted for this grant. Basically, it's a municipal energy resilience program, part of the state of Vermont. Part of this grant, we had a $4,000 mini grant, which we've already used to do an ADA accessibility study here at the town office. Part of this grant, in order to use this grant, the building has to be ADA accessible, which this one does not pass. But basically, this is going to be what we put in for is a total of $322,000 for upgrades. Here at the town office, we're talking all new lighting, some insulation issues that we have, and not anything to do with the heating system because we have these heat pumps and we're not going to get rid of the oil here. We need that as backup. The wastewater plant, that's a total of $107,000. That's going to be all like new doors, windows. It's not very insulated at all. So insulation there, plus again new lighting. Anything we can do to make it more energy efficient. And the water plant as well is new lights, new heat pumps. The new heat pumps at the wastewater plant as well. Both of the water and wastewater getting kind of electrical panel upgrades. I haven't heard back from that, but I just wanted to make sure everybody know we went out and this. I also checked off the box for to get a hardship, which would allow us to get all the funding up front, so we don't have to pay for it first and look for reimbursement. So I can keep you updated on that, but it's there is no match. There is no match to this grant. So. But it basically revolves around energy resilience.
John?
And when
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Needless to say, the applications have far outstripped the amount of money. There was a lot of money put towards it. It was all stimulus money. But little town of Cavendish is 300 and something thousand. And then you get into the bigger towns, I think the maximum was 500. Does that sound right?
500,000, yeah.
So it didn't take long to chew up all the money. All I'm saying is don't hold your breath.
Yeah. It's been pushed off a few different times.
Did they come in and do the study? Did they analyze the building?
They did, yeah. We got those. That's where we
Okay,
got those
good.
numbers, and we did, and we got everything that way. And we almost went with almost every recommendation. There was a
Keep
few.
your fingers crossed.
Right.
It's only-
It's great if we get them. That's a lot of infrastructure stuff and a lot of stuff we need that we're going to have to do anyways. So, at some point.
If not impressed, we'll go do flood study update.
So, in working with Mark, I think you can remember we've been talking about this for a while. We had we went out for a grant initially for this, which was denied because we did not have our local hazard mitigation plan was not completely done at the time. So we got denied on that. But Mark, Mount Scotty Regional Planning, Cavendish, and Ludlow all consider it a worthwhile project. So Mark is actually thinking about whether finding more funding for this. There is no cost associated with Cavendish and Ludlow yet, but we did leave it that when we get the numbers in, whatever the RFP comes back as, and with the numbers, we'll have that discussion then. And the RFP has been sent out for this, and it's due back by November 15th, I believe. So they'll have some good idea on numbers by the 15th. And it's the whole Black River river corridor. It's just a plan going forward for floodplain restoration, berm removals, buyouts, that type of stuff, a plan. It's not implementing the plan, it's just the plan. And that the final report due would be from whoever gets the contract would be December, the end of December next year. So 12/31/25. I think it's also important to note on this grant that we've also submitted for a FEMA hazard mitigation grant for Grevin Field alone. It's a completely separate grant. It's also 100% grant with, and they're really concentrating on buyouts, floodplain restorations, and stuff like that. So that's another one of those grants that has far exceeded applications on the money that they have. But I believe, we got a pretty decent chance with Grevin, because that's what they really want to look at, is some sort of floodplain restoration on that. Any questions on that one?
Is there any, I know around Grevin Field, everybody seems to think that the river's gotten very shallow there. Is there any way of, digging out some so that at least you have a deeper channel, so that it wouldn't flood as much there?
I'm hoping that the state really starts to agree with everybody else on that. I would assume that the flood study itself will identify that as an issue.
Yeah.
There's a few bullet point things that they have to look at that study. Grevin was one of them. The power dam is another, and stuff like that. There's a few that are listed that they really want them to look into.
Is that it, Rick?
Oh, yep.
Okay, we'll go to 3A, discussion on better roads.
Is Logan here?
Yeah, he's back there.
So I must have missed this. This is to have a discussion on a grant for road erosion inventory. It's part of our municipal road general permit. It looks like this grant would update all our inventory by October 31st of 2027. If I get anything wrong with this, let me know. And to be honest with you, we owe the state of Vermont a lot of updates, so this would be very helpful. I don't know if we've updated much since our last permit was issued, but we have done some of the work. It's storm management pretty much. As you can see, when we put new stone over, like on Densmore Road in the ditches, and doing that type of stuff. This is a grant that would do all the updates on that inventory.
This is through the state of Vermont?
Yes.
Yeah, but if I can just jump in, I can try to help a little bit. This is all very confusing. The state doesn't make things easy. They use the same name and acronyms for like 4 different programs. And all completely different pots of money that really have different purpose, but are all sort of within the same thing. And so this specific program, this specific grant that I was hoping to get on your agenda tonight and just hoping that you will approve is, it's exactly what Rick talked about. It is for updating your road erosion inventories. We call them REIs. You last did them in the first cycle of MRGP. I think I saw dates around like 2019 or 2017 for a lot of your current inventory. And so technically every 7 years, we're in a new cycle of what we call MRGP, the Municipal Roads General Permit. And as part of that, you need to re-inventory. And so every town in the state, technically, in theory, has to redo their inventories by, I think it's October 31st, 2027. And so we were hoping to get to you this year. I haven't really gotten out as much as I was planning to. The state had set aside about $1 million for this, which is not really enough to do every town. And so we were going to use some of our other VTrans money to fund doing your REIs. But because other people haven't taken up the state and aren't planning to take up the state on this opportunity, we are now asking you to apply for this money just because otherwise it's just going to sit out there and go into some other pot probably if nobody else spends it. So what we would be asking the town of Cavendish for is, you have 541 segments, technically, that they say are hydrologically connected. You're eligible for $20 per segment, and so the total project cost would be $10,000 and $10,820. And so your share of that would be $2,164. That would be your local match cost. And then you would get a grant from the state, or a reimbursement from the state, for $8,656. And so that's where most of these programs within the Better Roads, MRGP, Grants and Aid framework, they're reimbursable. So you have to spend the money up front, and then you get reimbursed after you complete the work. We would still presume to do the work at Mark. I guess I haven't read your procurement policy. You might need to go out to bid, or within your own procurement. I'm not sure, but I assume that if you do go out to bid, we'll probably be the only bidder. I don't think anybody else wants to do this work for the little money and the the lift that it is. It involves going out to every road, every segment that they identify as being connected, and determining what the stormwater function of the road is, whether the ditches are wide enough, whether you have enough culverts, whether there's no shoulder, or whether the shoulder would impede water from flowing off the edge of the road, all that kind of stuff. I have already finished Baltimore for the year, and so you're kind of next on my list. I'm hoping to get to at least half of it by the end of the before it gets too cold. But it's kind of depends on how cold it gets and how busy I am with other projects. But happy to answer any questions.
I mean, it's work that needs to be done anyways.
It is. You're going to have to do it. I think my main point was that you have to do this work anyway. I think right now, because we had put out $1 million for this, and then now that grant is being pretty heavily underutilized and undersubscribed, I am reluctant to think that the legislature will put another slog of money in that fund. And so I think this may be the only chance to get any state money for this project. And I think it's a little complicated. My understanding now of how this works from the side that I work now, like with Mark, is that a lot of people aren't applying for this grant because they missed it, or they don't have the administrative capacity to kind of take on the grant administration side of things. But I think there is a real need. But I think because so many people haven't applied, the state is going to view that as there is no need, and people are just going to do this out of town budgets. And I think that's really dangerous for everybody. If the state doesn't think that there's a need to put more money to towns. And so now we really just want to make sure that everybody applies, everybody gets any dollar that's there, and so the state sees that it is used, if that makes sense.
Is this something where the basically the town puts out whatever, say 10,000, and then, like you said, 2,000 is our actual portion, and then it gets reimbursed?
Yeah, you'll have to spend the 10,000.
So we would have to budget, I'm just thinking we'd have to have that in the budget and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
and then you'll
It's
get
not like
reimbursed up to the full amount of $8,656. Exactly.
Okay.
Similar to how the grants and aid, some of the grants and aid works too, in that same way of like, you do road work, we try to scope out a project to help you out, and then if it conforms to the state's standards, then they'll reimburse you for a certain amount of that work.
So are you going to, is this something Rick, you're going to have to fill out and get all that, and then we'll see it and approve it at the next meeting if we choose to? Or
Because this letter here is basically an intent to participate. This is not a contract or an agreement.
Oh, okay. Just an intent.
Yeah, it's not a grant. I mean, if you fill it out and you sign it, you will get approved. But yeah, you haven't signed a grant agreement technically. I just pre-filled out that letter of intent.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's your SAM number and all that stuff. That was the only thing that I wasn't confident on, but then I found it on another grant that I worked on. And so I think that's right.
It's a Sam dog. That's a dirty word around here. They have not been overly helpful to
Yeah,
it.
I mean, this grant, they made it available at the start of September. They initially thought, V-Trans initially thought that it would go pretty quick, and so they set it up as a first come, first serve. They knew that it would take like $2 million if the whole state applied. And so they set it up first come, first serve. So far, I think only about 400,000 has been applied for. So there's still a little bit of money there's still quite a bit of money in there. But we have started kind of a renewed effort for people to apply. I think that if more towns happen to apply over the next couple weeks, in theory, all that $1 million could go quick, and so that's why I came with a little bit of urgency, just like if you want to get on this, you might want to approve it and apply faster, sooner than later. But, if you're not too anxious about it, you kind of wait a little longer. I hate to put the gun to your head proverbially here, but I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity while the money's still available.
Now, what is, but Mark would do all the inventory updates on the portal and the app, or is that?
Yep, that's something that we do.
Yeah.
It's really, sometimes the wording and the way that's worded on the form is not.
And what would the 20% local match in kind look like versus cash on something like that? I mean, obviously we're going to have our time.
Yeah, in kind would be if you were going to try to bill some of your time or in-house time on something. Yeah, a lot of this is mostly tablet work. It's really just going out with a tablet and filling out this form for each of the 500 segments, and then then bringing it back to the office and uploading it when you get Wi-Fi again. So there's not really much. That's really all the work entails. But certainly if the town wanted to hire somebody in-house or to bring on somebody to try to do some of this work, you could build that out as your in-kind. It would just be that you're paying a wage instead of paying the contractor for that amount, and that would kind of be your in-kind.
And I will just throw it out there that I've been trying to get to this for the last year or so. I know it was up and coming. We owe them quite a bit of past information. Cavendish doesn't even own a tablet right now that I can do this with. You have to go out, you have to take the pictures of it, actually show that it's done. And then you can upload it and on the app and say, this is done, here's the pictures. And that gets taken off. You got a certain amount, 15% each year or something like that, I think. 15% each year you're supposed to do.
You're supposed to do, 15% of your very high or very high priority segments. And that's all based on how bad they are, as far as stormwater function, whether the ditches are there or not, and how steep the road is, because then the requirements for ditching are increased based on the steepness and slope of the road.
And we have not done, Cavendish has not done any update since when we did that.
That's one of the reasons why internally Mark has been really, that's why we really wanted to get to yours sooner in the cycle than, we work with 10 towns. We really wanted to prioritize you. I did Baltimore first, sort of. I mean, I'm confident in the progress and in the work, but almost as a trial run of see how long it takes to do segments. But we really wanted to do you right at the top of the list because we feel like we haven't updated your segments as well because some of your road crew doesn't use the tablet as much as some of the other towns, and so they're not as up to date as they are in some of our other towns. And you are doing the work. We know that you know, the work is being done, but we just know that the inventory that we have, you know, on the portal is not reflective of the current status of a lot of your segments. And so we really want to make sure that we have accurate data, and then that'll help us, you know, in the future years, whether we finish it this year or by the end of next year, we expect to have it all done. That will really inform our work, and then we can tell you, like, these are the roads you really need to work on, these are the segments that look especially bad, or you have erosion and stormwater issues that you should address sooner than later.
So
what is your pleasure?
motion, I guess?
Yeah.
I'll move that we give our intent to move forward with the grant application.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Good,
I want to
good.
double check that number before I send this back to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd give it to you tonight, just to make sure.
Okay, we'll go
Thank you.
forward.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, I'll thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Approval of new road name.
So there's a new road that needs to be voted on tonight. Per E911 rules, some of these shared driveways that had two houses on them, when you add that third house, it no longer is a driveway, and now you need a new road name. I might have misvoted a couple times where we did them. It needs select board approval. So this new road would be off of Pryor Road. 119 and 115 Pryor Road share a drive. There's a new house going up, and they've asked for a name of Sunset Lane for that. I've been in contact with the state coordinator. That road name does work for our area. They had some alternatives, but that was their first choice.
Now, these signs are the ones that have to say private after it?
They do.
those- Yeah.
And as of now, we have quite a few private roads, and we haven't bought those signs. Those are signs people, I mean, they're their own
Yeah,
private roads.
we
They're-
should, 'cause
They're buying those, but yeah, those are the ones that they put up, and they says PVT at
yeah.
the end of them. And usually when we get a new road or anything, then I'll send it out to the different fire departments so they know if they get a 911 call to a road they've never heard of in their town, they know where it's at.
So this is a private road.
This will be a private road, yeah.
Okay, what is your,
I'll make a motion that we name this new private road Sunset Lane. Private.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed, none? All right, we'll move on to November regular selectmen meeting time and date.
So again, the November meeting, the same as this month's, but this one is November comes on Veterans Day. Didn't know if the board's pleasure wanted to keep that or if they wanted to change the date of that
Move
meeting.
it to the following
Move
Monday.
it to the following Monday.
Everybody good
On
with that?
Monday, yeah, that's
Following
generally
Monday,
what
yeah.
we've done. Thanksgiving's late this year, so it's still a week or more away, so.
What date is the following Monday?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's gonna be the
21st?
20th?
7/14/21.
Always with the tough questions. 18th.
18th.
Yep.
But it was going to be the 11th. I thought
It was gonna be the
I
11th, yeah.
thought it was the 14th.
Same time, of course.
18th,
Yep.
6:30.
Yep. We'll go to discussion remaining ARPA funds.
So, update on the ARPA funds, as we know, we were awarded $421,485.70. To date, we've expended $93,012. These are numbers as of October 2nd. We still have a few projects that were uncertain. One of them being the office accessibility renovations, which is here, so we can make this a polling place. That would be, if we got the MERP grant, that could be part of that. So we're unsure about that one. Also, the RFP for the water meters, we're due those by this Friday at 1 o'clock, so we're uncertain on the price of that. And I'm just barely getting some of the hydraulic studies back from the state, which I was hoping we'd have real numbers, especially for something like Quent Phelan Road. If that needed a large box culvert, we'd be able to, vote to put that on there because they're a lot of money. I did get that one back. It doesn't necessarily need a box culvert, so that might be some savings to not have to use it there.
Does
But-
it need to be placed?
It needs to be obligated by December 31st.
Right.
So I've been in
Oh,
touch
yeah,
with
the fund, yeah.
VLCT on that. So by November's meeting, I can have a real number. I'll have the water meters in. We'll have almost everything in. We'll have a real number, and we can do a resolution at that time to
Okay.
use the ARPA money for any costs associated with the pandemic. So even back in fiscal year 24, we could offset the cost of, payroll or whatever with that remaining money. And by signing that resolution, you would then put the remaining money into the general fund. And from there, you can move it to another fund. You can make your own, or we do have the Community Development and Infrastructure Fund, which is basically what we were trying to use this with. But you would satisfy the obligated part of ARPA by December 31st, and then the money can be chose how to spend when we have real numbers of knowing what they are to spend it on, and it can be voted on at that point, and without the restrictions that come with ARPA. So
Yeah, because the money supposedly had to be not only allocated, but you have to get, like you say, the RFPs back, or
you had to have a
actual
signed contract,
signed contract,
which
yeah.
was, we were running out of time with all these, and we went out for those hydraulic studies back in February, and I'm just getting them last week, and it didn't give enough time for that type of stuff.
Betty has a question.
Okay, go ahead, Betty.
Yeah, I'm stepping in for Bruce at the moment. He's away. This past weekend, I spent 2.5 hours up in the Cavendish Village Cemetery. Someone had reached out to Bruce, asked him to find a stone. They were looking for their great-grandmother's stone, and Bruce is away. He told me how I might find it. It didn't work too well. I went up and down every row until I did finally find it. But while I was up there, I was surprised at how many stones are either broken or tilted or what have you. And I mentioned it to Bruce while he was away, and I saw ARPA on the agenda, and I don't know if there are funds that have not been allocated, but I'm just gonna...
Yep, there is. That's what we're talking about. I don't know if there's time to have a specific project.
I think that he could make numbers based on this.
But I'm just
Is there somebody missing?
He's out ahead, he's out here.
Many of these stones are tipped because the block of the stone is attached to the base by an iron rod, and the iron rods have rusted, so many of these stones have just tipped over that way. Others are the older, slate and what have you, and they are just broken. to share. So there's a lot of work to be done. You know, a lot of money could be spent, you know, just doing 2 stones. So there's no question that there is enough work up there, but there's 60 pictures from 2 cemeteries. I went back up to the Cavendish Center Cemetery and took those pictures, and then I did, on my way home, stopped at the Cavendish Center Cemetery. So those pictures do not include Hillcrest, 20-mile, Coffeen, Revolutionary, and Proctor. So the number of stones that could be broken or what have you is staggering. You know, it's not part of perpetual care to take care of the stones. Perpetual care takes care of the grounds, and it's also not the responsibility of the select board to repair stones. But, you know, people drive by the cemeteries and look at them and think that, you know, we're doing a terrible job. So, you know, perhaps this could be a way to, you know, work on that and maybe start something, maybe find grants, who knows what, but there's no question that money could be spent up there.
Yeah, I guess you just have to check how that, you know, if that qualifies under ARPA, because if you spend this money on certain things that don't qualify, they could come and say, no, you got to give that money back. So before we want to allocate, just want to make sure.
But the one thing, if we do the resolution, you do not, then you open the money up to, the board can use it as they see
Other
fit.
things.
So if we did, if
there might be a way
it's
to
the board's wish
get
to go
around that.
forward with the resolution with that amount of money, that's basically giving the treasurer the right to move that money into the general fund. From the general fund, it could be moved into that community development and infrastructure fund, and then you could use them. You could use that money for a project like this, or for, say, even, you know, if a grant comes available for something else and we don't have the match, something like
Then you
that.
could use it for that.
So it opens up opportunities.
But it all has to be used by 26. I mean, the money has to be all not only allocated but used and then reported.
But once, if you do that resolution, it's considered obligated and used.
Oh, really?
It is now in the town's general
It gets you out of
fund.
that deadline. Oh, well, there you go.
Yep. Is that correct? you were looking, I could see you out of the corner of my eye, and you were looking at me going, But
Good to check. That's something you could just
I
you
have
can
a-
verify for sure.
I have an email from VLCT. I can send the board on that.
Yeah, okay.
So let me just write myself a note.
All right. If that is good with that, we can go on to town manager's contract.
Oh, yeah. I do have a contract here that it was voted on the last meeting. Mike, who's not here, printed this out and sent it to me. So I do have it. And I honestly want to just thank all the townspeople. I've really enjoyed the last year and a half on that contract, and I look forward to doing it in the future. I mean, do you need a motion in the
Yeah.
No, we already
No,
voted
did
it.
that. We
It's just
need to
basically,
sign
to
it.
sign
you
it?
know, doing it in public and having you sign it.
Does anybody need a
And then we
pen?
gotta sign it.
Right? Oh, do you want the rest of it?
Yeah, we put it if they want to look at it, they can. We'll move on to old business. Dangerous derelict building update.
So, at the last meeting, I think at the last meeting, they were getting ready to work on the one on Depot Street. I'm sure we've all seen it. It came down nicely, and and it looks pretty nice. And I mean, it was starting to get a little scary. We all know that, so I'm glad it's all down before winter time. And also we had talked about 1323 Main Street. I did hear back from that landowner. She was glad I reached out. They did have plans. They've had some stuff going on in the family. They hadn't been here in a while. She had a while back been working to work on this, but it kind of dropped off. So she has reached out to contractors. Her intent was to always, take that down. But so she is currently going to work on something, and I told her that's pretty much all I had to hear. We weren't looking and jumping in there with looking at it like from that big of a standpoint, because it was not dangerous to surrounding buildings. But I let her know that was the next step, so she was gonna.
Could be dangerous to anybody
that tries to go in
poking
there.
Around. Yeah.
Yep. And she understands that. She was very receptive, and she gets that.
Ready with that?
Yep.
All right. Proctor Cemetery access.
So this has been on there for a couple months. I finally did meet up with the landowner on this. I had never really been up to that cemetery. I didn't actually go all the way up because I was there just to look at the access. But when I got there, it was mowed. There was a defined path. I didn't let him know I was coming. It looks like it's always been trimmed and mowed. Nice. It was a decent walking path. There was one little tree that was kind of in the way, but you could walk around it up on the road. And that night, I believe, or the next day, he cut that out of the right of way and did the work. The only thing I could say that could be off if you're not from town, there's no sign. So if you didn't know where the path was, you didn't know where it was. I mean, but as far as having a path available and being even maintained, it was there.
Good. Okay, Dwayne?
Yeah, number one, it's not my job to maintain it, which I do. And for the last 5 years, the cemetery committee has not touched that cemetery. I have mowed it and taken care of it myself. And up until this summer, which I had some issues, which you can understand that, Bob, I wasn't able to, but my neighbor, which he took care of it, that's the only maintenance that cemetery has had in the last 5 years.
I beg to differ, because I had, go ahead, because the school.
No, that's a fact. That's absolute fact. One time that I know of, somebody went up there with a weed whacker. But the only other maintenance, I'm not saying it was maintained completely, because again, it's not my job. But I was the only one that did it. And if you speak with the last town manager, I sent him pictures every time I mowed it, before and after. And Brendan will tell you, and if you speak with the cemetery commissioner, I'm assuming he's still the same one, he's like, well, we got to get you paid for that. I said, I don't care about getting paid. I just don't want to hear anything about it. And that's the way it's gone right along. So if anybody's got something else to say, they're just saying it to be saying it, and they're wrong.
Margot?
For the last 3 years or more, well, we've been doing it all along. The 5th, 6th grade go in, particularly in the fall. They all are armed with rakes. They rake everything, they trim all around it because they want to keep the leaves off of the gravestones to prevent more decay and problems. The students are ask me all the time why there are trucks and all this stuff up there, and the students themselves have offered to clean that up. And they sometimes go spring and fall, sometimes it's just the fall. But that is a regular part of their program.
You know, I disagree because I had an agreement with them asking me when they wanted to get in to make sure there was no issues, and that was an agreement with the school. So
I'm sorry,
kind
I've
of
gone there
confused.
every time with those students, so.
We're just doing the access,
And I
not the.
hear
Right.
from
But I
them.
live there, and I don't see this happening. That's
Now, they used to be able to get
interesting.
vehicles up there. Can they still do that?
Whatever. But were they able to get up there?
No?
Were they?
You can walk up.
What you're
Sometimes-
saying? Were they
some-
able to
some
get
years-
up there?
Some years
With the
students
vehicle?
go the back way, some years they go the front way, particularly when we're going up with leaf blowers and all of that. We
The
go
back
up
way.
the way from the road. But the
Through the
students
school?
do comment about the
Water
vehicles,
tower?
they wonder
Yeah.
about pollution and all the things they're being taught in school. And that is an issue, and it does put off people because they come back to the Cavendish Museum and they say, why is this like this?
Yeah.
Information only. And Tom Singleton would always grab me and yell at me, and I have no control over that. We were just trying to maintain the stones.
Tom Singleton that came in my yard smashed the windows out of my vehicles and threw stuff around and screamed at me saying that was his property and I shouldn't be on my land. Is this the same Tom Singleton that you're throwing out
See,
there?
this meeting, we were
Which
only
this
gonna.
is
We're
on
just,
Right,
Dwayne,
the access.
we're just on the access.
This is
We don't care
on
about the history from
record
back
with
then.
the previous town manager that this happened.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking
No,
about.
we're just on the access. That's all. We don't
This
need
is the access. We're talking about the access.
Yeah, and I said, can you drive a vehicle up there like they used to?
No.
You can't get a vehicle now. So,
But- But nobody has been denied
it's
access.
the right of way. You should be able to get the vehicle up, right? I guess.
The best of my knowledge here, we're not talking about anybody's been denied access to that property.
Any other questions from the board? No. If not, we'll move on. The manager's report.
So I just want to report that we continue to work with FEMA. That seems like a never-ending thing. But I was told today that they want to finish up our projects within the next 2 weeks. Obviously, they have to move on to other stuff. I don't think, it won't be finished in 2 weeks. We'll be finished doing ours and then answering questions to the multiple different people that look at them. But I will say we currently have right around $500,000 worth of projects that have been completely finished and are obligated to us. Still struggling with the SAM.gov. Again, a couple days ago on Friday, we received that we're all set and should be able to now start receiving that money. But that still leaves, $1.5 million worth of projects that are in various degrees of review from FEMA. But we're getting there, slowly but surely. And I also want to say that, the town office has been working pretty hard recently trying to get agreements for overdue water and sewer bills. Quite a few people have either arranged for an agreement or paid. We only have a few that I can't get in touch with and respond or haven't responded. And we will have to be disconnecting service to those soon. So I want to make sure everybody knows that if you need an agreement, we try to make these as simple and as easy and as possible and as reasonable for everybody. But we do need signed agreements for the water and sewer utilities. So please just get in touch with me. Now we also, I want to say we had, a group that is here tonight that has worked quite a bit at Grevin Field, removing, and I might forget some stuff, removing invasive species. They did that for quite a little bit. I want to, thank Margot for, making all this happen. They've also been working on identifying species of plants and trees and cleaning out the ditches and stuff like that. And, as we move forward with this, these studies and what we do with Grevin Field, all that work is work that's going to need to be done, and identifying the plants going forward is going to be really helpful when it comes to whatever, we're going to use going forward for Grevin Field, to better the community. So they've done quite a bit. I know this is a manager's report, but did you want to expand on that at all? Because I know you've done quite a bit over there, and some of your students are here.
The students actually had to leave.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
That's okay. In fact, we were just there working. The big thing was we had to open up the ditch, which has not been functioning over there. You want to keep your ditches open, and it was just chock full of invasives. So they literally have pulling them out by the roots. We had the 5th and 6th graders there working. We've had Brat running a lot of stuff. The Dartmouth students are amazing. They're using iNaturalist. I think there's good reason to believe that does help us not having buildings and structures on there so water doesn't hit it and speed up.
No, she's voting for Kamala
Dwayne?
You are incredibly rude. Nonetheless, it is starting to really serve its purpose to give the water a place to spread out and can help protect our businesses, Depot Street, all of that, because that's really important. So we are very grateful to Dartmouth students that have come down. They've been here from the beginning of May right up till tonight, working in our town.
Not the same students, but the same basic group that's cleaning out the ditches all throughout town. So good.
In fact,
they've done a lot of work.
Can you include any of theirs as in kind for that grant?
I'm not sure, but
do you want a student that could actually enter data for you?
yeah. Well, yeah, I'll talk about it because
they took pictures of everything.
Well, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if there was some carryover, but if there's some
they're
way.
kind of all combined, but it's definitely different. This is more than the construction, like making stone line ditches, making sure the runoffs are, correct and stuff like that. So It's a little different, but had me thinking there for a minute, though, that's for sure.
But we do have students that want to do special projects, and we could certainly put a student in here if that's we'd have to work that out, but if that's of interest, based on the work they've been doing. I'm thinking of one student in particular that does this kind of work as a job for the railroads. I don't know if he'd be available, but he would know how to do it. We can talk later.
Wheels are turning. I'll let them. That was it. Yep.
Okay, move on to their business.
All set.
Shannon?
I had a question. Someone was questioning the self-service or lack thereof all the way through both villages. If anything had been investigated or that would ever change. And then I heard you guys talking about it beforehand. So.
Everything changes.
I haven't heard of anything of them getting new cell towers anywhere or putting them up or even looking. for us on that.
Yeah.
I
Just
think it
being in-
depends what service you have too. Like some people get it if they're on one service, but another.
There's pretty much
there
nothing
isn't.
through
Right at the
here
green
or
is-
at the school, so
Right.
to your major locations and you've got nothing.
I do pretty good with mine with Verizon in town. I don't lose it much in town at all.
I don't with AT&T.
I got nothing with AT&T.
Oh, really?
Or
If you
US
have Comcast, you can use Comcast hotspots, and they're all along the roadway. But that is something that state telecommunications, we've certainly looked at that. And that is that's the study they do every year, where the guy goes out and he rides around and he does all that stuff. We should have service. We have it on both of the greens, because that was one of the things we did through COVID, was to make sure there was cell service. Now, you may not want to walk into that because it's a public port.
Well, I'm talking cell service. When you're driving through the road and you're on the river road and you crash your car, you can't call 911.
Well, that's true on the river. Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying? You've
Yeah,
got a
down
big
there.
blank
You're not
spot all the way through your town.
They're not
Downers to
gonna put a tower up
Proctorsville,
there.
that's in and out.
You're at the school and you've got nothing. So, just safety.
George,
Yeah, I was. It was great. We paved those spots in town. I was wondering if we're going to get any lines on them, especially I know up on 20 Mile Stream. That's a very dark area, shaded, and when it's foggy sometimes, you just don't know where you are on the road. So I thought it'd be good if we could. I don't know if it's there's still time or.
I'll get in
possible.
touch with them again. Last time I did, unfortunately, right when we were done paving, they had just finished doing their markings around here, for this.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, we can hire that out somebody. Last time I tried to jump on, kind of when the state was here to get a better deal.
Yeah. But I thought maybe
Yeah, because we have 20 Mile and Whitesville Road both.
yeah.
is that it? All right, have a motion to adjourn. I don't have nothing. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, aye.
7:32.